Chapter 4: The Kingdom of Pineal, Community Culture. The goal of the Kingdom of Pineal's Cultural Manifesto is to help you better understand what the Kingdom of Pineal is and our vision for the future society we are building. Pineal's Cultural Manifesto will highlight the ideology, philosophy, and structure of our organization, as well as our present and future plans. By doing so, our aim is to bridge any gaps of misunderstanding between our organization and the world at large. Our aim is to portray a true and positive perception of who we are and what our intentions are as a collective body. Pineal Pinheiro Family Trust. Community Culture. The goal of the Kingdom of Pineal's Cultural Manifesto is to help you better understand what the Kingdom of Pineal is and our vision for the future society we are building. Pineal's Cultural Manifesto will highlight the ideology, philosophy, and structure of our organization, as well as our present and future plans. By doing so, our aim is to bridge any gaps of misunderstanding between our organization and the world at large. Our aim is to portray a true and positive perception of who we are and what our intentions are as a collective body. The word culture derives from the Latin colere, which means to tend to the earth and grow, or to cultivate and nurture. Social culture can be defined as the ultimate system of social cohesion where people monitor their own standards and behaviors established by a set of principles they all agree to. This definition of culture is what unites the individual to a collective sense of security, identity, and character. The depth and importance of our collective social cultures is reflected by our ways of thinking and living. Everything that defines us, from our knowledge, experience, belief systems, principles, values, attitudes, meanings, hierarchies, notions of time, roles, relations, concepts of the universe, principles and objectives, the foods we eat, what we wear, how we wear it, our language, codes of manners, expressions of love, music, art, literature, customs and rituals. All these attributes encompass our cultural identity. Pineal Pinheiro Family Trust. Community Culture. Cultural identities define people's expectations from us. In the attempt to fulfill these expectations, we shape our behavior and personality with the culture we represent. Culture also determines the spectrum of learning within a community. Those born and brought up in the same culture are often found to share similar personality traits. Such cultural expressions define our very existence: where, why, who we are, what we believe, and why we believe it. We acquire these beliefs and knowledge of the world from the people around us. This cultural structuring of our thinking influences our perceptions and ultimately our actions. Intensely focused culture is what is known as cult or cultish behavior. The word cult is a concise derivative from the word culture. A cult can be defined as a collective of people who actively and assertively express their shared cultural identity. Essentially, a culture of people is nothing more than a large cult. All cultures that exist today began as cults. Different cultural groups think, feel, and act differently. The closer the ways of thinking and living are aligned between a collective, the stronger the culture is likely to be. In effect, there is no universal correct culture. Correct culture is almost always our culture. And our culture in one society almost never corresponds to our culture in any other society. For this reason, the importance of culture cannot be stressed enough, as it is something that is intrinsically part of how individual human nature expresses itself within collective social structures. Having said that, a healthy approach to cultural influence is one of tolerance and freedom of expression within the boundaries of that said culture. Higher spiritual understanding and knowledge or wisdom helps us acknowledge and compromise the gaps between our cultural differences. Cultural differences manifest themselves in different ways and different levels of depth. A highly evolved culture adopts the approach of optimistic cultural determinism, which places no limits on the abilities of human beings to do or to be whatever they want within healthy and safe boundaries of that culture. Fundamentally, the concept of culture is one of a paradoxical nature. This is because the most balanced cultures exercise free will whilst at the same time ensuring that the core values of that culture are never broken. Cultural core values serve as influential guidelines that help a society to uphold and maintain its cultural integrity. The most influential cultures define their core values through powerful symbols, rituals, and heroes. Symbols are words, gestures, pictures, or objects that carry a particular meaning which is only recognized by those who share that particular culture. Cultural symbols reinforce a group's cultural identity through repetitive, positive affirmation. Heroes are persons, past or present, real or fictitious, who possess characteristics that idealize the highest core values and principles of that culture. They serve as idealistic role models of cultural behavior. Cultural heroes, if not living, are often embodied, expressed, or celebrated through stories, legends, folklore, mythology, religions, or the arts. Rituals are collective activities, sometimes literal and sometimes superfluous, in reaching desired objectives. Regardless, rituals are considered as socially essential to a group's cultural identity. Cultural rituals include ways of greetings, paying respect to others, spiritual practices, social ceremonies, and many other such expressions. Symbols, heroes, and rituals are the tangible or visual aspects of the practices of a culture, quite often revealed or interrupted by the practicing subjects of that culture. Whichever way we look, culture is all around us, and it is an integral part of our being. It defines the way we treat others and ourselves. It is the subconscious bond which ties a collective group of people together. After all, there can be no happiness without order, no order without authority, no authority without unity, no unity without culture. The Kingdom of Pineal is no exception to the universal rule of cultural determinism. Just like every other collective that has or is defined by all their various cultural nuances, the Kingdom of Pineal is equally defined by its own cultural identity. Our symbols, flags, emblems, clothing, rituals, and heroes in the form of our founding members are all distinctive expressions of Pineal's national identity. We are proud of the culture we are cultivating for all the future generations that will follow in the footsteps of the model society we are co-creating. The mission of Pineal's Cultural Legion is to ultimately establish a great cult of peoples who not only proudly celebrate their unique individualism, but also the collective pineal culture that binds us all together as one cohesive community, naturally living in equitable common unity with one another. The Kingdom of Pineal defines itself as an indigenous natural community as we choose to live and practice our own established cultural and spiritual way of life that honors the natural principle of organic living in equitable trust. Article 1. Our indigenous natural ways include 1. We live and practice a strict plant-based diet, vegan. We abstain from consuming or using any foods or products that are exploited from animals or other humans. 2. We wear our own traditional tribal clothing made from 100% hemp and cotton fabrics. Our traditional attire is eco-friendly with designs that reflect the expression of our cultural values, individualism, and identity. This includes wearing head wraps, kaftans, and walking barefoot where appropriate. 3. We strive to live in natural structures that support our cultural and spiritual principles of living in symbiosis with nature. Our dwellings and communal spaces are all designed and built to be as minimalistic, natural, and as organic as possible, which includes structures like cotton canvas tents, wooden log cabins, and earth houses. 4. We practice natural, holistic, homeopathic healing methods such as organic plant-based medicines, meditation practices, sound healing, and various other martial arts and exercises. Our cultural and spiritual principles encourage us to abstain from pharmaceutical, chemical, or artificially manufactured medicines. 5. We homeschool our children within a structured environment that reflects and supports the philosophy, principles, and ethics of our culture and spiritual beliefs. Our homeschooling system does, however, include many of the recognized mainstream subjects such as maths, the sciences, reading, and writing. 6. We practice our own unique ceremonial rituals and celebrations that reflect our cultural and spiritual beliefs. This includes natural birthing and burial ceremonies, spiritual initiations, ancestral chanting and dancing, healing circles, as well as seasonal celebrations that honor various celestial and astrological alignments. 7. Pineal spiritual initiation. To become a recognized member of our tribe, one must complete what we call the Pineal Sovereign Self-Initiation process. This is a spiritual self-initiation for rite of passage that allows a person to absolve themselves from all forms of identity that no longer serves their spiritual purpose as a sovereign living man or woman of the earth. Without this spiritual initiation of sovereign identity, one cannot be recognized as an indigenous cultural member of the Pineal Pinheiro family tribe of the Kingdom of Pineal. Pineal Sovereign Self-Initiation. Self-realization and self-identification are at the heart of our cultural and spiritual expression. We believe that the right to choose one's own path in life is fundamental to the freedoms of all human beings who choose to do so. Unfortunately, many of us did not willingly choose who and how we would be identified as during our lifetimes. Our cultural identity through our names and citizenships were forced upon us at birth and, as children, without our expressed conscious consent. And now, as fully consciously aware and educated living men and women, it is our wish that we rectify this error. Our spiritual and cultural ways of life are living expressions of how we define ourselves as individuals within our tribe, as well as how we identify, interact, and build relationships outside of our community. Our will for this correction of recognition as self-determined men and women is as follows. 1. The right for members of our tribal family to absolve ourselves from the registered identity that was created and registered for us at birth without our consent, and to create and identify ourselves with a new sovereign self-created form of personal identification. We have created our own lawful documents of self-identification that correspond and meet international standards of identification. We are ready to present and notify our documents with any external authorities who wish for us to cooperate, integrate, and assimilate into their established cultural systems of governance. 2. The right to renounce ourselves from corporate citizenship of a country we were forced to join against our sovereign will, and the right to create our own sovereign and independent lawful jurisdiction of sovereign status based on our communal, cultural, and spiritual principles, beliefs, and practices. Meaning, we no longer associate ourselves as citizens of any country, government body, or nationality outside of our own indigenous tribal jurisdiction of the Kingdom of Pineal. However, we must emphasize that we honor and respect all other tribes, governments, countries, and nations of this earth. We are also aware that our indigenous community has established itself as an embassy within the borders of an already established society, the territorial land known as Portugal.
Kingdom of Pineal, Natural Birthing Culture. The Kingdom of Pineal approaches childbirth as a transcendental spiritual process for the souls of both the mother and the baby being birthed. The whole process from conception to creation of a fetus during pregnancy to labor and giving birth is no doubt a miraculous and wonderful spiritual journey of metamorphic transformation, transmutation, and transcendence. In alignment with the Kingdom of Pineal's tenets, philosophy, ideals, and embodiment of natural living, natural childbirth is at the core of our cultural practice. Trusting the natural process of childbirth is a sacred rite of passage, as a soul transitions from one paradigm into another. Part of the Pineal culture is to honor the soul that has chosen to join or return to our community by ensuring that the mother carrying the fetal body that the incoming soul will inhabit is an environment that is relaxed, comfortable, and adequately prepared for a safe arrival. It is also imperative that the expecting mother is empowered and supported, particularly by the other women of the community throughout her pregnancy and labor process. This cultural practice creates and cultivates a community where the women are empowered to share their experiences, encourage one another, bond, and feel comfortable being vulnerable with one another. Such cultural practice builds a powerful sisterhood that only amplifies the overall strength of the family and community at large. At the core of natural birthing is the ability to allow women to let go and surrender to the natural process. Honoring the natural birthing process empowers a woman to trust her body and believe in her innate abilities. When women relinquish control and trust in their bodies' natural processes, this amplifies their intuitive spiritual powers, confidence, and resilience. Natural birthing allows the body and soul of the mother and the baby to connect in a sacred way that cannot be replicated in any other setting. When a woman gives birth naturally, she is embracing the natural process of creation, which induces a spiritual awakening. She opens herself up to the divine feminine energy that flows through her during this incredible time. This connection between mother and baby is strengthened by the peaceful environment of the home, allowing for a calm and gentle entrance into the world for the returning soul. It is not just the mother's responsibility, but also that of the community to honor this bond and provide the best possible beginning for the incoming soul that has chosen the community as its family. Gentle postpartum care is also crucial in supporting the physical and emotional well-being of both mother and baby. At home, in their natural environment, there is no rush to leave the comfort of her own space or be separated from her newborn. Mother has the freedom to bond with her baby at her own pace, while receiving individualized care from the community who will support her recovery every step of the way.
Kingdom of Pineal, philosophy of death, transcendence, rituals, and practices. The Kingdom of Pineal adopts the precepts of ancient law that embody the knowledge of birth and death as transitional states. Ancient law knew that birth is but one bend in the eternal stream of life. Coming out of one channel is called death, and going through another channel is called birth. With the knowledge that we are infinite, spiritual beings, souls, having a temporary physical human experience, it is reasonable to view death not as the end, but merely a transition. Death is a transcendence, a separation and not complete finite annihilation. Death is a habit of the body, not the soul. Death is not painful. The fear of death is painful. Death is but a momentary disappearance of that which is revived again in another form. The individual soul is self-existent, unborn, incubated in the human form, and only temporarily liberated at the point of death. The unaware soul moves from the known to the unknown, from the visible to the invisible, from the seen to the unseen. The soul is not subject to decay. It is an eternally evolving source of energy, acquiring memories and experiences as it travels from one space-time continuum to another. The body is but a temporary vessel that serves purpose for the soul's evolution. Attachment of the soul to the body is what keeps the soul in a state of unaware bondage. When the soul realizes its individual sovereignty from the body, the soul transcends the ignorance of death and becomes immortally aware. This is the ultimate expression of sovereignty and freedom. This is the truth that will set you free. It is with this conviction that the Kingdom of Pineal was founded on principles of spiritual identity with focused energy and attention on the welfare of the eternal soul first, before that of the temporary body. With this mindset, the Kingdom of Pineal does not view the death and decay of a physical body as a loss. Instead, we focus more on celebrating the transcendence of the soul. Our ceremonies and rituals involving the transcendence of a soul from a dead body are ritualistically intentional, with the focus on helping the soul safely detach from the carnal attachments of its physical identity. A detached soul is sovereign and free to transcend into its next form without the trauma or karma of the carnal identity it is shedding. In consideration of these fundamental spiritual truths, cremation of the deceased body is preferred over burial. When the deceased body of a departed soul is transmuted through cremation, it is easier for the soul to detach, transcend, and evolve into its next phase and form of experience. The kingdom of Pineal does not conform to any particular rituals of cremation ceremony. Each ceremony is unique according to the transcended soul's ideals, preferences, or resources available to the family or community. However, as a rule of thumb, it is advised that the body of a transcended soul is cleaned and embalmed with natural essential oils and cremated within 36 hours after transcendence. During the cremation ceremony, prayers, music, and songs of celebration and thanksgiving are encouraged to help the soul along its journey through transcendental realms.